Hello there, and welcome to the tour of the Hussars class internal bay landing craft, the 10th vehicle in my military utility logistics or transport vehicles series. My name is Wimperman, and I'm the chief designer, chief builder, chief architect, and of course chief dumbass behind the Hussars landing craft project. Now, at the end of the video, I'm going to talk a little bit about the registry numbers, including something that proves without a shadow of a doubt that I am, in fact, the chief dumbass. I'm also going to talk quickly about the running lights. It was brought to my attention recently that it might not be obvious how to turn them off if you don't like them. That might become more clear during the tour, but I will talk to you at the end about it. One thing I won't be talking about is how to fix the power and shields, because on this MULTV, I haven't done anything special with the generators powering the shields. You'll be happy to hear. In case you've seen other MULTVs, some of them will have generators that turn on when you turn on the shields and weapons switch, which would have meant if you turn them on with the default keybind, things will go pop because the generators that are on by default won't be able to power them. I haven't done that with this one. It wasn't as easy to do that with CVs because unlike with SVs and HVs, where the shield generator uses roughly the same amount of power as two large and a small generator, it's not quite as easy on this. It's not as easy to thing. Whatever. Right, okay, so let's start the tour of this new ship then. Don't look over there. You'll see that later on. Right, so let's start the tour. Oh, hang on a minute before we start the tour. Let's show you what it's based on. These are landing craft that deliver tanks to the shore. And this one is sort of an idea of what it's like inside. So as the name suggests, internal bay landing craft. Mine has a large internal bay, just like this one. And just like this one, it also has some more ship on the outside of the bay. And on mine, I've put rooms and thrusters and stuff along this bit. You'll see when we get to the interior layout, but that is basically the general layout of the vehicle, but it does this job, which leads me on nicely to its role and its task equipment. So, as a landing craft, it is tasked with deploying ground vehicles onto the surface of a planet or a planetoid or something. And of course, transporting ground vehicles maybe between planets within the same star system, that sort of thing. And to facilitate that task, technically you could count the thrusters, because without them it wouldn't be able to move anything or anywhere. But it has a large internal bay. Actually, I'm going to show you the back first. There we go. So the dimensions of this, I will cover it again later, but I'm going to say it now. To facilitate the task of landing craft, it has a bay that is roughly 8.5 blocks wide. So it's actually 9, but then as you can see, there's some wall blocks on the sides, which, I mean, don't technically add up to half of a large block, but might as well call it 8.5. It might be something like 8 2/3 or something, but whatever. Now that means in small grid, it's about 17 meters of usable space in width. In height, it's 5 blocks high, with exception to the top of those shutters there, and of course all the lights along the ceiling. So usable space, it's about 9 meters ish. Maybe 8. 8 to get in. And lengthwise, it's 31 blocks. So the shutters at the front there actually take up a small amount of the very front block. So you could say it's about 61.5 meters of usable length. Now, it was designed and intended for carrying 2 of my Fenrir Behemoth tanks of the Armoured Fighting Hover Vehicle series. It'll fit 2 of those in there, end to end. Now, I also wanted it to carry 8 of these Jackal MBHT, main battle hover tanks, also of the Armoured Fighting Hover Vehicle series. Now, in order to fit 2 of those, it does mean it can actually fit 10 of these in it. And I have done that for one of the screenshots. There are 10 of these in there, 2 rows of 5. So there you go. That's how big it is and its task and what it can do. Oh, I should also say, this is all, of course, lore. Now, it's not really supposed to be dropping ground vehicles into an active conflict zone. Now, it could, and it would take some damage from the front, but it's not really intended for that. It's really intended to put stuff near, like behind the front line, and then the ground vehicles would drive forward to where the combat is happening. That's kind of the idea of the vehicle. So there we go. Right, that's the end of that segment. So the next segment is its propulsion, handling, and lift capacity. Right, starting as I usually do with its forward thrust, or their forward thrusters, all of the forward thrusters. So 16 medium thrusters pushing it forwards. 8 on each side, 4 at the top, 4 at the bottom. Braking and reverse, it has 8, 4 on both sides, 4 there, and obviously mirror image. Laterally, it has 10, 5 there and 5 there. Obviously, I did go with 8 originally, but its yaw was a bit meh. Now, I know you might be thinking, well, its braking and reverse is a bit meh, but unlike yaw, you can't yaw quicker by pitching or rolling. So when you're going forward, if you want to slow down quicker, you pitch up, and that uses its bottom thrusters, its lift thrust, as braking as well, and that slows it down quicker. You can't really do that with turning. Right, downward, there's 8, 2 in each corner. Again, these are medium thrusters. They're all mediums. It has no other sizes on it. As for lift, so it has 16 that come on by default, 4 in each corner. Actually, let's turn them on. There you go. 4 in each corner makes 16 total lift. And then the other 2 in each corner that you can see are off are set to max lift. Now, its lift capacity with max lift off, it will operate dry weight in 4.2 G. I think it's actually 4.255, but, you know, whatever. So, again, that is dry weight. So that's not with ammo or anything in its storage or, of course, anything in its payload bay. With max lift on, it will lift 11 kilotons, give or take, in 4G. Now, the vehicle itself weighs just under 7 kilotons, so you will be able to carry another 4 kilotons in 4G with your max lift on. Actually, let's turn those on. Oh, no, because we need to do handling now. Yes, right. So mobility, starting with its maneuverability. So this is max lift off. It'll accelerate forwards at 42 meters per second squared. It'll do the same pushing upwards. It'll brake and reverse at 21 meters per second squared. And for its downward, for descent, and then its lateral thrust is 26 meters per second squared. Agility, 22 degrees per second yaw, 22 degrees per second pitch, and 32 degrees per second roll. It's a shame nothing was 42, but you know, life, the universe, and absolutely everything. So let's switch on max lift and see how that changes. So as you can see, the lift goes up to 63. Oh, I can't remember what it was. So up to 63 from 42. Oh, of course. There's the 42. There's the 42. Hey, 42. And then obviously pitch and roll will have changed as well. 22 and 32 pitch and roll. 25 and 39. So there you go. Up by 3 and up by 7. Now, let's show you how it handles. Now you're getting a bit of a view at the interior, but there you go. So, considering, I mean, she's not exactly the biggest CV in the universe ever, but considering she's only medium thrusters, I mean, she's a bit sluggish, but there you go. I'm not gonna bother. Shall I show you in space? Yeah, alright, I'll show you in space. See you up there. Oh yeah, max speed, by the way, in atmosphere, 60 meters per second. Rightio then, here we are in orbit. Maximum speed of 100. Yeah, this might be a pilot mode on kind of shit, really. But there you go, this is how she sort of handles. Okay. Back to flattish. Rightio. Oh, have I touched down? Yes, I think I have. Okay, so there you go. That's how she handles. How well. Oh, look at that. I didn't do too badly. Right. That's the end of that segment then. So the next segment is its power, fuel, and air. So this is going to be fairly straightforward. Power, 4 large tier 1 power generators. Fuel, 6 large tier 3 fuel tanks and a pentaxid tank. Air, 6 large O2 tanks, 28 ventilators and 3 O2 stations. Now, the 28 ventilators might suggest to you that it is fully compartmentalized. So there may be a couple of exceptions to this, but generally speaking, there's at least 1 vent per little room or corridor or something. I should have said, and I usually do this anyway, so most of you probably know, I will show you where all this is when we actually go into the interior, but for now, I'm just going to tell you about it. Right, so that's the end of that segment, nice and quick. The next segment is its weapons, defenses, and construction. This should be fairly quick as well. Weapons, it has 6 Gatling turrets, 2 on the sides, 2 on top, 3 of which point backwards and 3 of which point forwards. It also has 6 sentry turrets, 4 on the front, and 2, that was a bit quick, on the back. Now, the sentry turrets are set to anti-personnel, what I consider to be my anti-personnel configuration. So they'll target NPCs, players, and predators, as well as obviously drones. The Gatling turrets are set to what I consider my point defense. So the same, except take off predators and add the weapons of small vessels, small vessels. Yeah. It has a shield generator under there. It's a tier 1. That's what that little lump is, because, as I'm sure everyone knows, the shield generator is 3 blocks tall. And you probably don't know, but all of my decks in this ship are 2 blocks tall. So I needed a lump, a lump for the top of the shield generator. It is only a tier 1. And I will explain that a little bit when I come to the registry, because there is a bit of explanation there, but it is only tier 1. Obviously, feel free to upgrade it as you want. Armor and its construction. Now, I did this for the first time on the previous MULTV, the MULTV9, the giant Marabou class troop dropship. Before I painted it, I saved it. Well, I did actually paint some of them different colors so that it was easier to differentiate between the block types. So the black is combat steel. The very dark grey is hardened steel. The lighter grey is steel, and then the very light white, almost grey, is the carbon composite. Now, as you can see, it has a structural frame which keeps the ship together. It's supposed to be, like, in law, it's supposed to keep it together. That's the idea. It has a structural frame. Everything else, the armor is, or the outer hull is hardened steel. There is a little bit of steel here and there, but it's where it doesn't really matter. And then even more so with the carbon composite, it's not protecting anything because there's usually either hardened steel or combat steel beneath it, like there, for example. This is going to give you a bit of an insight to what the interior looks like, but at least you also get to see how it's structurally made. So we can see the structural frame and some of the outer hull there. That's basically it. Now, except for walking on the outer hull here, all of the deck plating is all carbon composite. Yeah. Right. Oh, no, that's next bit. Okay. Well, maybe not the next bit after the next. So there we go. That's do you want to bit? No, I think you've got the idea of what it looks like. Right, so that's the end of that segment. The next segment then is its resource gathering, production and storage. Right, resource gathering, pretty obviously, it doesn't have any. Production though, it does. It has 2 small constructors for your ammunition crafting needs. It has 1 food processor for, or in the event of a survival situation, maybe it crash lands on a planet, or maybe someone playing a computer game in a survival world might need it, but there is a food processor. And it also has a repair station for repairing any armor that the people on board might need. Storage, right, yeah, sorry. So, storage, it has 2 48,000 SU ammo containers, and it has 4 120k SU cargo containers. It also has 3 small cargo boxes, 4 armor lockers, and 1 large and 1 small fridge. Right then, that's the end of that segment. So the next segment is its interior layout and any remaining devices. Now I'm going to drop out of God mode for this. Right then. So here we have an on-foot ground access entry and egress point. Ingress and egress, I should say. Obviously, these doors are automatically automatic. They can be made manual, but they are automatic by default. There is a similar balcony bit on the other side. This is a mirror image ship, basically. So this is the on-foot, like I said, access. Now, the rear access to the payload bay, as you can probably tell, is on a motion sensor, that one there. Those shutters, those ramps, and those 2 lights, and never mind, those 3 there come on automatically. Now if we go round to the front, the ramps and the lights are automatic, but the front doors aren't. And they're actually 2 layers thick, so there's the ramps. They're not airtight, they're just normal ramps. And then inside of that, for extra protection, is the shutters. Now, the reason they're not automatic on a sensor is because when you drive vehicles in from the back and up to this front door, I want you to be able to bump up against them so that you can fit as much as you can into the bay. Whereas if they open, you can't tell whether you're just beyond it or not. And therefore, when it closes, it might glitch out and throw itself off the planet and that kind of stuff, because the tank you've just parked there might be in the way of the shutters. Also, of course, it's slightly more protection to whoever may be inside that bay if you are going to be dropping off into an active conflict zone. There are two other ingress and egress points, and they're the airlocks up on the top deck, but we'll get to that in a bit. Oh, I should point out as well that the on-foot ingress points are always marked by these light green lights. The light green lights that are light green. You know, a light that's the light green. The light. See, Chief Dumbass. Right. Let's come back down to here. Now you've seen all the ways in. So we go up the stairs. Nice view into the bay. Now, on both sides, this is the same, except for what's in the workshop. So we'll go into the workshop now. So this is the production-y kind of workshop. So this is where the two constructors are, the repair station, one of the small cargo boxes, two of the armor lockers, and as you can see, there is a teleporter in here. What else? The lights are on. Motion sensors. Oh, the teleporter is on that motion sensor. You can probably tell by the white line, but it won't use power until you actually want to go and use it. Now, to the front of that is a passenger compartment. So there can be 8 people in here. Now, the idea of these passenger compartments, you can see the seats on the other side over there. So this ship, while it can be, or should be used really for taking ground vehicles to near a conflict zone. Like I said, it can also be used to move vehicles around between planets, or it can be used to deliver vehicles, say, to a base from maybe the factory where they were built. And I figured that there may be times when the vehicle or when this ship might need to also transport some personnel. Maybe mechanics or engineers that maybe need to be delivered with the vehicles, that kind of thing. It might also be just some, some crew and some soldiers might need to be going to the same place, for example. So that's why there are some seats in here. Now I'm going to go across. No, I'm not. I'm going to give you a good look, actually, of the payload bay, and then I'm going to go across into that workshop. So there we go. This is what my internal bay looks like. Now, there are some doors. Yeah, let's do these now, since I'm here, and then we'll go into that workshop. So the other one on the other side is the same as this. It's simply thruster access. You can repair in here. Obviously, there's some space in here to expand, put some extra stuff. I haven't done it, and I would say don't, because it would be next to thrusters. But especially if you upgrade the shields, for example, maybe you're not too worried about putting stuff next to thrusters. So there you go. That's a little bit of expansion space, or I've called it maintenance. That's what this orange signifies, by the way, is maintenance. Like I said, the other side is the same. These I refer to as my intercoms panels. So the idea is that people on board would communicate with other areas of the ship through those. Thank you. So here's the other workshop. This is more of a health and living kind of thing. So we've got an O2 station, a tank for extra oxygen, I suppose. There's the food processor, the large fridge, the small fridge, the other 2 small cargo boxes, and of course a medic station. And they're really there. So again, if this ship is dropping off tanks and it gets shot down, the idea is that the manufacturer, which is me, has given some survival equipment in the event of that, is the idea. Now there's 2 more rooms down here before we go up the elevator. And that's the landing cockpits. There are 2, one on each side. There's the other one over there. Now, there are 2 for redundancy. It's as simple as that. It's easier to land in this cockpit than the one at the top. What? The ship wasn't moving. So it has 2, again, in case one gets shot out. If you do land too close to an enemy, for example, the idea is that the crew can go between them. Okay. I'll show you how to open those doors later on, by the way. I didn't say it at the time, but it'll be in the shortcuts and signals bit. Right, we shall go up this. So this was deck 1. We're going to go up to deck 2. Not much on deck 2. The most important thing in the ship is, however, on deck 2. The privy. There's one on each side. So I've put it here because I thought it would be it's the best place to be accessed both by the crew up on the flight cockpit upstairs and the passengers in the passenger compartments. It's easily accessed from both. The original design sort of had toilets all over the place, and obviously I didn't like it and I got rid of it and put other stuff there instead. Right, orange doors, more maintenance access, generally speaking thrusters. As you can see, thrusters. Yeah, again, you can use this space for expansion if you really want to. Now, here is one of the containers, one of the 120k SU cargo containers. It's that one there. Obviously, the other side, again, mirror image. There it is. You can just see it peeking over that half block there. If we go through the other door... Oh, I forgot to mention there's also a bit of fuel in there. Not much. I dotted fuel around so that if you do take damage, hopefully it won't all go explodey. Right, so more maintenance access. The O2 is in here. One of the other 120k cargo containers is in here too. And there's the extensions. Again, thrusters, space to expand if you really want to. I wouldn't recommend it because, again, anything targeting your thrusters might target or might blow up accidentally your Reforged Eden 2 CPU extenders of the expensive variety if you put them in here, but you're more than welcome to if you're not too worried about it. Right here. Let's go up to the last deck then, deck 3. So there are 2 doors coming off the elevator. This one goes into the airlock. Now, we had a look at the other side from the outside earlier on, but there you go. Nice window for looking. More windows for looking. Some of the other equipment. Oh, you can probably tell. So there's a gap above there because there's the ventilator. I couldn't squeeze another one in. Well, I could have done, but I wouldn't have been able to get... Oh, no, I still wouldn't have helped, would it? I would have had to have sacrificed something, whether it be a light or... Actually, I probably could have done away with the intercoms panel, couldn't I? But never mind. So here is the flight cockpit. So the idea of this is where the flight crew would be as they're traveling rather than just landing. I imagine that you would... so the crew complement of this ship is probably 5. The 5 seats you see in here. Maybe 6 or 7 if you had an engineer and maybe a dedicated helmsman for one of the landing cockpits. But ideally it would be 5. That is, of course, in lore. In reality, it is, of course, 1, you. Yeah. Oh, and you can probably tell by the fact that there are no beds on board that this isn't meant to be a long-range transport of ground vehicles. It does have a warp drive, and we are about to see it. But again, it's short range, which is one of the reasons, by the way, I haven't put a lot of fuel in it or a lot of oxygen. It's supposed to be short-range transport. Obviously not so short that you don't need to worry about toilets. I've obviously given you a couple of those. But yeah, so here we go. This is the flight cockpit. Very, very nice. So my heads-up displays, you might recognize these from the SVs I build, except that I've combined 2 of the SV displays into one on a CV. So on an SV, that would be 2. And this would be 2. Power save would be 1, and lift performance would be another 1. But on a CV, I can fit them all onto one. And each of the seats that can fly has their own heads-up displays. So that's in here. Oh, light switch leaves the lights on for when you get into a seat, because obviously the motion sensor can't sense your motion anymore. Right. And then the last room is engineering back here. It is slightly different at the front from side to side. So on the starboard side, we have the tier 3 CPU extenders. We also have one of the 48K SU ammo containers. Going through to the other side, you'll find the other one, and also the gravity generator, and you can just peek a glimpse at the Wi-Fi over there. Obviously, the warp drive is there. It's obvious because it can be seen. More fuel is there. There is a few windows in here, but not many, because once you get past that bit, you kind of want it to be more armoured. The generators are there. There's one behind the other. There you go. You can just see them. The core is there. And there's the tier 1 shield generator on its pentaxid tank. Yes, so there we go. That is everything in here. And in fact, I'm now going to fly out in God mode. So that's the... Oh, hang on. No. Detector is there on the front of the flight cockpit. Oh, and this ship, as usual with my ships, is fully flight regulation lighting compliant. Again, I'll talk about how to turn them off if you don't like them at the end, but we have running lights that show any observer that the ship is powered. Although they're not on, we also have the anti-collision beacons that come on with the thrusters that show any observer that the ship might move at any moment. We have the red on the port, green on the starboard there, and white on the stern nav lights that show any observer the orientation of the ship. Lastly, no, actually, connected to those are the formation lights. These I refer to as illuminated orientation panels. I never remember to refer to them as formation lights, but that's what these are. These little glowy panels all over the place are formation lights for when the ships are flying in formation with each other, especially in low visibility, that you can see the orientation of the ship even when you can't necessarily see the actual lights, the nav lights. So that's those. And then again, these aren't on, I'll show you them later on, but there are some flight strobes. Those are the bright white, really fast blinking lights that you see on the wingtips of planes. My ships have those too. And those are for... do you know, I keep saying they're for to let observers know that your ship is in motion, but they're not, are they? The flight strobes are for... what's it called? Visual... When you find something. Give me a minute, I want to think about this word, because I want to get it right. Do you know what? I'll ask Google what the right word is. I can't find the word I'm looking for. It's like a visibility acquisition. When you acquire visual contact with the thing, that's what it's really meant to be. It's collision avoidance. Now, the anti-collision beacons and okay, I think I've just figured it out. So beacons and strobes are both anti-collision lights. Okay, well, whatever. So flight strobes are anti, but never mind. I mean, we are talking, is it 450 years in the future? Oh, do you know what? Something rings a bell. I think when I started building years and years and years ago, I did know this, and I decided that it would have changed in the future. I think actually it was for... I don't even think it was Space Engineers. It was before that. What's that Minecraft in space? StarMade. Yes, I think I decided for StarMade that by the future, hundreds of years in the future, that anti-collision beacons would be their own thing separate from flight strobes. So, yeah, it rings a bell now. Okay, so a lot of time wasted. And I think that's the last of the remaining devices. So showing you the Wi-Fi. Oh, I should explain these antennas. Obviously, they're decorative. They do absolutely nothing. So the idea of these is these are the transmit and receive antenna for the teleporter. So the way I see it, the teleporters work without these, but these make it more efficient. It's more efficient to have one pointing in every direction, but sometimes the design of the ship doesn't allow that. Likewise, this is supposed to be the transmit and receive antenna for the Wi-Fi. Again, it should be more efficient with one in all directions, but sometimes the design doesn't allow it. This is obviously a comms antenna. Again, more efficiency would be one in all directions. Oh, yeah. The coolant pipes, here we go. I'll talk about this real quick, actually. It's not really a remaining device, but shh. So the idea of these is that there is coolant running around inside the generators to keep them cool. Now, there's a little bit of inconsistency with these in my builds, unfortunately. Sometimes I just can't help it. So there are some ships that don't even have the coolant pipes on the exterior. And again, it's an efficiency thing. I've sort of explained it away to myself. So the idea is that generators or ships that don't have these external coolant pipes, the coolant just doesn't go outside the ship. There is some internal mechanism that cools the coolant, but it's just not as efficient as pumping it outside the ship where it can be cooled in space. So I'm sure you can see, but the idea of this is the hotter coolant. It gets cooler as it goes around, hence why the red bleeds away. And in case you care, that's these 4 shades here. That's the brightest one, and then it goes down these 2, and then that's the coldest one there. In case you care. Oh, another inconsistency, of course, is the length of these pipes. So some ships, they're really long, and so, I mean, as you can see, this one, it's the brightest red for 4 blocks, and then it goes to the slightly less bright red for another 4, and then it's this one for 4 blocks, whereas there are some other ships where it's that bright red for 10 or 20 or 30 blocks. It's just decoration, okay? It's best not to think about it too much. Right, I think that's the end of that segment. So the next segment is its shortcuts and signals. Now, the one thing I always forget to mention during the shortcuts and signals segment is that all of the devices are grouped into custom groups. So please do not click the auto group button. Some of the shortcuts and signals rely on these custom groups. Now, apparently, when you first spawn the ship in, when you save a template, these custom device groups will be saved as part of that template. So you'll probably, I don't know if you can do it on a repair bad, but certainly at station services, we'll fix that in case you accidentally press that. Right, so shortcuts and signals. Starting with the device group shortcuts, and as usual, the top one is its main thrusters. That'll turn on all of the thrusters that I showed you earlier that aren't max lift. Oh, it will also turn on what I was referring to earlier as the anti-collision beacons. So they are light red on the dorsal surface. There's 2 at the front and 1 near the back. And they are yellow on the bottom. There's 2 at the back and 2 at the front. Now, at the moment, IRL, NASA has yellow nav lights on the ventral section of their ships. Yeah, funny enough, I don't know if I also came up with that idea in StarMade. That might have been slightly later in Space Engineers, but whatever. I then came up with the idea that by this game, I think, is set 2470, or whenever Space Engineers is set. I think it's like, it's probably a bit earlier, so maybe 2320 or something. But I sort of decided maybe they would need anti-collision beacons both top and bottom. And I decided that the yellow nav lights would become the anti-collision beacons on the bottom. So that's why they're yellow there. So there you go. They do those. Max lift obviously turns on and off the max lift. Doesn't turn on the beacons. Weapons and shields, as I'm sure you can guess, turn on the weapons. Both the Gatling turrets and the sentry turrets. And of course it'll turn on the shield generator. Now, I did mention earlier, but just in case it doesn't turn on or off any extra generators, all 4 are all on all of the time. The next one is left blank because, like all of my ships, and I've said this in other videos, I really should have done it with my HVs as well. I have these in the same order on every build, basically, unless there's some edge case where like it doesn't have drills, but I do need an extra device group toggle for something. I will put something there, but generally speaking, they're in the same order. So, like here, where drills aren't on the vehicle, the drill switch is left blank. Artificial gravity. So, there is a shield... No. There is a gravity generator on board. We did see it earlier, but just in case you're skipping around, it's there. And that covers the whole ship. So if you're in a gravity well, you can, of course, turn that off. By the way, this is the configuration that the ship comes in. I'm sure you may have guessed, but this is how it comes. So if you need artificial gravity, you would need to turn it on there. Production and repair, that will turn on, of course, the constructors, the food processor, and the repair station. Next one's unassigned. Last one is air vents. Some of you have probably heard me talk about this before, but just in case this is the first ship of mine you've seen, I will cover it. I'll just do it quickly for those who have seen it before. If we have a look at power left and we turn oxygen off, nothing changes because although it doesn't blow air into the interior anymore, in fact it sucks it all back in, the ventilators are still receiving power. But if we turn the air vents off and look at the power left, you'll see it goes up. Why do air vents use up so much power? That's insane. I mean, to be fair, I've got, 28 of them? So if you're in a breathable atmosphere and you want to save some power, turn your vents off. Right then, onto the custom signals. And the first one, as usual, is power save. Now, the heads-up displays... Thanks for interrupting. I always forget about that. The heads-up displays do explain what the power save will turn off. But basically, it's the Wi-Fi, all of the passenger seats in the passenger compartments, because the idea is you wouldn't be using power save in motion, let alone when carrying things, including people. It'll also turn off these LCD nameplates and registry displays. It'll turn off all the heads-up displays. It'll turn off all of the motion sensors and the levers that control things. Is that everything? Did I mention the Wi-Fi? It turns off the Wi-Fi. I may have mentioned the Wi-Fi. I can't remember if I've mentioned the Wi-Fi, but it turns off the Wi-Fi. Anyway, anything I forgot is on that screen anyway. So next one down, unassigned. Then we have the surface sentry turrets. Now, I've given you a separate switch for those. They do come on when you turn on the weapons and shields. But if you need to kill a raptor or 3... you don't necessarily want to waste... Siren. Just sometimes the siren goes past when I'm recording and I'll say siren and then shut up and the microphone can't always hear it. But there you go. Right, so what was I saying? Oh yes, if you want to kill a raptor or 3, you might not want to waste all of the power to turn on all of the weapons and the shields. So I've given you a switch just for the sentries as well. Next one down is the nav lights. Oh. I didn't actually turn them on earlier, so there you go. As I pointed out earlier, they are red on the port, green on the starboard, one there and one there, and then white on the stern, that one there and that one there. The flight strobes are the ones next to them, the bright white flashy flash. And now, like I said at the beginning, at the end of the video, I will talk to you about the nav light. No, the running lights. Oh, and the anti-collision beacons as well, actually. But I'm sure these are easy to figure out. If you don't like them, you just don't turn them on because they're not on by default. They're not automatic. Ground lights. So, all of the ground access points have lights. Now, they do come on with the motion sensors, but you can also turn them on yourself if you're loading and unloading lots of people and equipment, is the idea. Headlights. Lots of headlights. 2 on each side on the bow. 1 is diagonally down and 1 is straight forward. I can't remember which one is which. Oh, there you go. So there's the horizontal one that points directly forward, and there's the diagonal one. 2 more on the top there, and then 2 more on the top of the cockpit, the flight cockpit. And finally is the bow bay doors. That's the signal that opens and closes this door. There you go. So it can be done from a cockpit seat if you're dropping off other people. Oh, I should say as well, if you don't like that, if you don't like the fact that it's manual and you want it to be automatic, that motion sensor there is the one you want to connect to, bow door. Now, if we go into them, we'll see that bow bay doors isn't exactly a million miles away from the one you want. So you want multi-control bow door, that one there, if you want to make it automatic. Is that it? Yeah, that's it. Cool. Right, so that's the end of that segment. The next and last segment then is its CPU and upgrading. Now, I have shown them during the interior layout, but just in case you're skipping around in the video, the core is at the back here, protected by some armor, which I really should have shown you during the defenses and construction bit, but there you go. There's Lagshot armor and it's hardened steel. CPU extenders are at the front of the engineering, but on the starboard side, on the port side, is the grav generator. You can probably tell by the fact that there's 2 tier 3 extenders. This is a tier 3 ship. As for its usage, it uses just over 1.3 million of its 1.5 million allowance. Right then, upgrading. Now, there isn't technically a built-in upgrade path. There isn't any empty space that's actually earmarked for stuff. However, as I was pointing out during the interior layout stuff, there is plenty of space, especially around the thrusters, where you can put some stuff here and here. I mean, like I said earlier, it might be dangerous to do that near the thrusters, but there is space available. Now, that doesn't mean you can't personalize the ship, and here's what I mean by personalization. If it was me, single player, especially in single player, I would have no need for these passenger seats. So I'd rip them out, first of all of them. Then I would probably make one of these rooms like a bedroom, dining room, living room thing, probably this side because the food processor is there. And the other side, so this is only carbon composite. It isn't actually the outer hull. The outer hull is there. And I'm sure you can already figure out where I'm going with this. Rip this up, grow plots in here. There's enough room or space above for the grow lights. One there and one, what would it be, there? Would give you a relatively decent garden. I don't think you could go to there unless you're willing to modify the outer hull. But you could definitely go to there. Because again, that's only carbon composite and it's just decorative. Right. So, one of the things I never remember to mention, but I really should, is this texture. I consider this my damage texture because I think it looks, when you lose blocks, that looks like damage, like it's smouldering metal. That's why I've done that. Now, registries and nameplates. So, I've kept these as simple as I can. So you can put your ship name. Now, there is a slight problem. That is where the actual end of it is. If I press backspace, you'll see it deletes that asterisk. But it's not hard. Just go to there. I'm sure you can imagine there's a space after that dot. Oh, in case anyone wonders or even cares, ISV stands for Interstellar Vessel. That's all ISV stands for. So you would put your name there. And of course it's centered, so it will change it there. Now, obviously, this is the Hussars class, and the first one is the Hussars. Obviously, I can't stop you even if I knew you had done it. I probably wouldn't even bother because I just don't care. If you want to call it ISV Hussars, you can. It really ought not to be, but, you know. Oh, what am I doing? It doesn't matter if I retype that, does it? Okay, so registry. So these number symbols, feel free to replace them or leave them as you wish. If you really can't be bothered to replace them, obviously it's fine just to leave them if you're okay with it. I mean, you could even multi-tool up the LCD projectors that are all dotted around. So the idea of the number symbols is this is supposed to be... they're supposed to be counted in numerical order. So if you care, or if you just, you know, want to because it's mildly fun, what you would do is count how many subscribers there are to this ship and add 1. Now, assuming, of course, that you have subscribed to the ship, that should then be your number. Again, no one's going to care or know if you put any number there, so maybe a number that means something to you. I will explain this real quick. So, this is what I consider to be... Actually, let me just check. I forget what I call them because I very rarely talk about them because most of my vehicles up to this point have been tanks. There we go. Funny enough, it's the first image. So, that's the primary registry. And then the other one is its full registry. Let's go back. So that's its primary registry. So this is obviously military utility logistics transport vehicle number 10, and then yours, mine would be 001, and yours would be, you know, 002 or 007 or, you know, 1,190 million, depending on how popular this ship is. I mean, to be fair, let's be honest here, guys. I'm not Jeff Randall. Oh, there's another thing I wanted to point out that that's just occurred to me. It's really funny how much this thing, because it's based on the actual landing craft, how much does it look like a tank? It does kind of look tankish, doesn't it? A little bit, maybe. Right, anyway, that's silliness aside. Right, so, yeah, let's be honest, I'm not Jeff Randall, so, you know, there's not going to be millions of you. A dozen, maybe? So I've always had the opinion, I build the ships that I want to fly. I put them up on the workshop just in case there's a couple of people who also want to fly it. I'm not interested really in numbers. I'm okay with like 2 people or 10 people or, you know, 30 would be lovely, but you know what I mean? I'm not all that fussed. Obviously, you are free, and you are free to use it, and I'm grateful that you do, but I don't chase the numbers. Anyway, this is the full registry. You can probably figure that out, is Wimpo Manufacturing. This bit might need some explanation, and funny enough, I might need my my terms and definition guide back up. So, we need to scroll down a little bit to the warship, no, to the military ships. SVs, bit further. So here we go. Military vessel classification. So we got sub-warships and non-warships. And here we can see the thing is, and you'll see that this is a landing craft. So here are the landing crafts, and it's an internal bay one. So the NLCIB that you can see as part of the full registry is a military non-warship landing craft internal bay. There you go. That's what that's. Well, anyhow. Now, as I said at the beginning, there is a story to prove that I am in fact Chief Dumbass. I was going to say I've spent about 2 weeks building this ship. That's not entirely accurate. Because I started doing it, and then I realized that I needed to do the troop dropship, so I went and did that and then came back to this. On top of that, these registry displays haven't been on the ship for the entire time. It's not like they were there when I placed the first block. So these go down before I start painting. So this and all the other examples. Oh yeah, I was going to say, for changing them, you don't have to go around each and every one, by the way. You can do it from here. Yeah, I'm sure you... Oh, sorry, hang on. Name and registries. Group 5 of the device groups. In case you want to find it easier. 4, 5, names and registries. There you go. So you can do it from there rather than floating around the entire ship. So, the entire 2 or 3, maybe 4 days it took me to paint and everything. This said MULTV10. Not only did that say MULTV10, it said MULTV09 on every single example. And so my construction area up there, where the one I actually built is still set, the name here is still set to MULTV09 Hussars class. Grr. Now I know this is the 10th because I've referred to it as the 10th in other places. So even on the thumbnail I wrote MULTV10, and my folder where I keep all my screenshots is titled MULTV10. But the ship itself, every example said MULTV9. And I didn't notice that until I stood in front of this ship in this view, had started recording and started the tour with the 9th Vic. Oh, that was literally how it went. This is the tour of the Hussars class internal bay landing craft. The 9th vehicle. Oh, no, it's not. Literally got up to the beginning of the tour before I noticed that the number was wrong. Who does that, by the way? Right. Is there anything else to talk to you about? Yes, there is. So, it was, like I said at the beginning, it was brought to my attention recently that the running lights get on at least one person's nerves. That's fair enough. I'm not going to judge. I've got no problem with that. You know, flashy lights do annoy people. It's fine. The thing that worried me was that he said he went around and turned them all off. Now, I don't want to call that person stupid at all. It obviously just didn't occur to them. You scroll down to the bottom of the devices list and you click on the running lights device group. They are now off and they will remain off. I mean, unless you flick that switch, they might come on, but that's probably it. Now, as for the anti-collision beacons, it's the same thing. So now that the thrusters are on, the anti-collision beacons are active, and now they're not. So if they do get on your nerves and you can't be bothered to go around with your multi-tool yet, do please. Obviously it's a bit different with the anti-collision beacons if you're using that main thruster switch, because it will turn them on every time you turn the thrusters on with that switch. But until you go around with the multi-tool, that might be a solution. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. Right. One last thing to talk about, and that is its paint scheme. It comes with 4 primary colours in the colour palette. Now it clearly comes in the khaki tan colour here at the front. The next colour along is a camouflage green. I'm sure it goes without saying, but I've been careful around the build of not using these colours so that they're easily switched. The green that you can see dotted around the ship is actually that one. I'm sure you can guess. Oh, apart from the ammo and armour lockers, that's that one. Right, next we have a light blue-grey. And finally a dark blue-grey. So there we go. I'm sure it goes without saying, but you can change those to your heart's content, obviously. Now there's one final thing to do, like I usually do, and that is to publish the ship on camera, just so it makes you feel like you're part of the process a little bit. Hooray! Right, so that'll be the end of the tour. Thank you very much for taking an interest in the Hussars class internal bay landing craft. I hope you get some use out of it, and hopefully I will see you in another video for a different build. So thank you again, and goodbye.